Hello and welcome to the Alt Tab Me podcast. I have with me Maluda and Dejamal, and I am your host, Balderax. So, first off, what are we? We are Alt Tab Me, and we are a gaming community. So, what types of games are we playing? Right now we're playing an MMO called Wildstar, and man, do we love this game. So I'm going to pass it off right now to Maluda, and let him start this off for you.
So, thank you, Baldo. We are playing Wildstar, as he mentioned. For those of you who don't know, this is an MMO that's produced by Carbine. Part of what we wanted to do today was talk about some of the reasons why we're playing Wildstar, what Alt-Tab-Me as a community is doing in Wildstar, and then possibly give some insight to what we think the direction is going to be for the game and for the guild as we play the game. And so Baldo is our host and moderator, so he will be helping us keep us on track, and then Dejamal and myself both actively play and raid in Wildstar, and so we'll be providing you with that perspective. So what do we want to talk about first? I'm thinking game mechanics. What do you think, Dejamal?
I think that's the best place to start, just because this game is so much fun.
It is. It's a good time.
It's unlike World of Warcraft. It's unlike anything else I've ever played, in that where you're standing and what you're doing are way more important than pressing the right button at the right time.
I hate it in all the other games where you just stand still and you can't move when you're attacking at all. You just gotta stand there.
Is not like that at all. I feel, even as I main a healer, and even as a healer, I feel like I have to constantly be moving and paying attention and being aware of myself, which is very different from some of the other games that I've played before this. So, and for the other action classes, it's even more for them. So, yeah. It is a telegraph-based system. So if you are used to games where the mechanics are such that it tells you not to stand in something, Wildstar is like that. Alternatively, or similarly, for good spells, the game also tells you where those are. And so for any beneficial buffs or any healing, it does take the players to be aware that there is a beneficial thing on the ground and for them to move towards that, which is very different from some other MMOs where it really does just rely on that support character to be targeting other people for them to get the benefits of those. So,
now, have they patched, because I know a few times where you dodge out of the telegraph and you still get hit. Have they worked on that any?
Well,
out of good ones?
There are kind of two issues at play there, where one is just if your connection is off by even a little bit, if it's registering your position as inside that telegraph, even if you see yourself out of it, you're going to get hit, and with some of the bigger ones, like, you're going to die and you're going to feel bad. But there are also a couple of abilities that are, they'll do like a motion, like I have one that's a dash forward, but if the move isn't over by the time something hits where you started, like, it still counts you as in that mechanic. So you'll actually be 20 meters away, but if you're still in the air, you technically get hit. And I think it confuses a lot of people between just a little bit of lag making that much of a difference. Because in a game like WoW, the boss is just, he's attacking one person or he's attacking 5 people at random, and it's up to their stats to determine whether they get hit or not. But in this, it's if you're in it, if the game thinks you're in it, like, you get hit regardless of what you see.
Yeah, I remember experiencing that from playing other MMOs, where if I wasn't, the server didn't register me as in the same position where I was looking at, I still got hit by those telegraphs, and I do think that Dejamal brings up a good point that lag does play a significantly larger role in Wildstar than maybe some other games, because the positioning is very key in this game, and so even a 1 or 2 second lag can be the difference between you successfully getting out of something that you shouldn't be in. So that's a really good point to bring up about the mechanics of this game. I will say overall, I am happy with the game mechanics. I find it very engaging. I didn't play other, I guess I would call them action MMOs, where this style of movement and targeting, things like Terra, I think, come to mind. for this style. I haven't played a game like that before WildStar, and so I personally am really enjoying it. I don't know. I'm assuming Dejamal likes it.
I hate it. It's horrible. No, for reference,
so much.
I quit WoW after I think the end of Lich King, and the only MMO I tried to get into in the meantime was Star Wars, and I'm a big Star Wars guy, but I couldn't do it just because it wasn't fun. And my friend asked me if I wanted to play this game, and I said no because it looks really fun, so it's going to devour me. And he said no, I'll play with you, it'll be fine. And he quit, and now I'm raiding. So
that works
that's
out.
usually how it works.
Super
hey,
fair.
Come play this game with me.
He swoops you up. It's fine.
Yep, he
I'm
disappeared at level 22, and I'm here 6 months later, or however many months it's
rocking
been.
it in the raids.
Yeah. You do actually bring us to a good comparison, at least from a visual style. WoW, at least for me, I find that the artistic and visual style of WildStar is very close to WoW, which is a game that I think all three of us played previously. And,
yes.
And so, at least for me, I actually think it's very attractive from a visual perspective. I think some people may dub it as cartoony a little bit, but I think that's part of the charm. That is part of why I liked WoW when I played that game, because it did look artistically different from some of your more realistic graphics-based games, and so I personally do like the way that it looks visually.
I think we can all agree that it is a beautifully put together game.
Yeah, and
visually and mechanically.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and the cartoony is something that people I don't know why they get up in arms about it. Like, yeah, I play an adorable rabbit person, but I mean, like mechanically speaking, like I'm still stabbing things. So as long as it's fun and it doesn't look like bad, I mean I don't demand that everything look like Fallout for me to decide it's worth playing because it's gritty.
Like I gotta see every nut and bolt. No, I don't want to see every nut and bolt. I wanted to be able to play the game, let it look awesome, and be able to play with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think the Chuas are really adorable too, so I'm okay with the cartoony aspect of it.
They've got that.
I think that's awesome.
They're cute.
A little tiny
what are those
going up against a big
lops, right?
Big
oh yeah, the rabbit people, the actual rabbit people.
Yeah. I like those cute.
I guess I'm like a non-specified rodent. I don't think they have any one in mind. It's just kind of a... It's all of them.
You're like half rodent, half human.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's just a person with rabbit ears and a tail.
Oh, man. So, we love the mechanics. We love the style. So, I would like to talk a little bit about Tab. And Baldo did a good job of at least introducing who we are. I've been with the community maybe a little over a year now. I wasn't actively playing with the community until WildStar, but I've been part of the community for a while. And I know Dejamal joined us in our WildStar campaign, and so he can probably provide his perspective of how he feels about Tab and what we're doing. But
and I've been here for way too long.
How long have you been with Tab?
Like 2.5 years.
That's not really long.
That's not that bad.
Not that bad.
I think I started in the Guild Wars 2 era, and we just kept going right along.
So I didn't.
Hey, it kept me at stick. We outlast release dates, so I mean that's our mottos. We are the community that outlasts release dates.
Yep. And I think that's a good thing to bring up because I think when people join us, obviously right now the game that a big majority of us are playing is Wildstar, and so we're going to recruit people in Wildstar who want to play with us. But we are a community outside of that. I mean, we have meetups. We do play other games aside from Wildstar. I think there's a Smite tournament tomorrow, right?
People are all up on Smite.
That I think I'm a part of. So,
oh yeah, we were supposed to be protect the noob. We were supposed to be noobs.
Yeah, actually, I'm actually in a 2s bracket.
Oh jeez.
We will see how that goes. But anyway, we play games together, and so right now our biggest campaign is Wildstar. And
doing a lot of raiding right now too, right?
We are. That is our primary focus. I think later on we can talk about some of the things that we want from Wildstar. But right now, what we as a guild are utilizing is raiding, and so we are currently 2 out of 6 in genetic archives.
Yep.
Yes. So we are 2 out of 6. We raid Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight Eastern time. And so I guess that does kind of get us into raiding a little bit. I am curious to know, Dejamal, what your thoughts are about raiding with Tab up to this point. Put you on the spot.
I know. I didn't want to raid when I played this game. I had told myself I wasn't going to do that. Just because, like, when I played WoW, like, that was what I did. We had Molten Core Fridays, which, when you were in high school and you couldn't go anywhere anyway, it didn't really matter. But I think the community thing really helps because, like, you're talking to people during the week, you're talking to them when you're not raiding, like, you get excited beyond just, like, logging into raid. And, like, I know that we do have people who log in just on raid days now, kind of, but even those people are still, like, engaged in the community, which I think makes it a little more fun than just signing in and raiding and then, doing whatever else.
Yeah, I agree. I will say that out of every other group of players that I've been with before Tab, the activity on the forums and the website and the chat box and how much we engage each other outside of the games that we're playing is really unique. I actually look forward to during the week when I'm on my commutes and can log into the website real quick and chat with people, or during my lunch breaks, or probably when I should be working and I'm not.
You don't have to cover up for us, man. I'm not your boss. I know you're in there during the day.
So I actually enjoy that, and so I obviously it helps when we're in game because now you're talking to people outside of the game, and then I think it enhances the trust that you have with one another in the game. So just to, I guess, at least move us along here, raiding is the biggest thing we're doing in Wildstar, at least as a guild, and so I do want to spend some time talking about that. How do you feel about raiding, Dejamal?
It is simultaneously like the most fun I've ever had raiding and kind of the most frustrating raiding that I've ever done. Because, like, mechanically speaking, the fights are really well designed, and the system that they use makes it really cool. Because the fights are a lot more based on motion than, normally in a WoW type game, like the tank might be moving and the healers might be moving, but for the most part, if you're damaged, like, you're just gonna find your spot and you're gonna stand in it and you're gonna press whatever buttons you need to press. But, like, this is a much more involved process, and it also means that everybody has to do their job correctly, because almost all of the fights have some kind of enrage, like whether it's a soft or a hard enrage, there's a certain point at which you can't do it, and so if everybody's not doing their jobs, you're kind of hosed. So there's no such thing as a carry, which kind of drives everybody to do a better job than if, some games you can just say, well, I'm going to be lazy today and let other people do the work.
And telegraphs make it pretty hard as well, especially on, like, the medics, right? Because if somebody's jumping all around and you're trying to heal them, you got to be pretty precise with those telegraphs.
Yep. And I am curious, Baldo, since you're not as active in the raiding scene. Before I put my opinion about raiding, what is your perception and perspective of raiding in Wildstar?
Oh man, I wish I could, but I haven't. I haven't even done a raid yet.
What are your perceptions of it though? Because you hear us talking about it all the time on the website.
I'm like, man, if I could meet those times, like at what are the times? 8 p.m. right? If I can meet those times, I would love to jump in and do like 1 or 2 raids just to get a feel of it. But the time schedule are just a little out there for me.
from what you have heard us talk about, at least on the website and at least here so far, do you get the sense that it's really hard? Do you get the sense that it's really easy, or do you think we're just complaining a lot?
I hear a little bit of complaining, but I hear good things about it too. Okay. Like, I hear it's challenging enough that it doesn't put you out, but it also wants to draw you back in for you to complete that challenge.
And I actually really agree with that. Like Dejamal said, I have a very love-hate relationship with raiding right now. And it might be a little bit different for me too, because I'm also one of the raid leaders, I guess you could call it. So I'm also thinking about a lot of other things aside from just the raid in and of itself. But even if I'm not even doing all those things, I think the raiding, just having to deal with the mechanics of it and thinking about positioning and telegraphs and people, it is a very mentally intensive 4 hours, I will say. Just because I feel like not only do you individually have to execute everything perfectly, you also are expecting 19 other people to do the same.
And it's also a little different for you, because you're also one of the people that have to, like, not control, but, like, help lead the other 19 people into what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we're very fortunate in that within our raiding group of 20, there are a lot of people who help to coordinate efforts. So I don't think that falls solely on any one person, because if you ever listen to us in our mumble, you know, there's a lot of people who are very knowledgeable about the fights and the other classes, and who are willing to help some of the other guildies get coordinated on some mechanics. But there has been a lot of controversy around raiding, particularly with some of the bigger guilds. I guess I would call them the world first guilds, either downsizing or altogether quitting the game. And so there's been a lot of talk about raiding, at least in the Wildstar community. So, Dejamal, what do you think about some of those? Because I know that we have lost some big guilds recently in Wildstar.
Well, I think part of it is kind of funny, because they had always said, even in the marketing leading up to the game, like, it's a hard game, it's a hardcore game, like, there isn't a lot here for people who don't want to be raiding and be challenged constantly. And I mean,
trial
obviously,
by fire.
Yeah, and that kind of bears out by the fact that, like, nobody has cleared the 40-man yet, and it's existed since day one. Yeah. Which maybe people get kind of jaded, because, like, in WoW, when they released Lich King, like, people were clearing that content 3 or 4 days after the drop. Like, they were just burning through it.
Is that a good thing?
I like that it's hard, but I mean, I can also understand for people who've been raiding for, how long has it been now? 4 months, yeah. And they're still, having a hard time doing it.
That no one has seen.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand getting kind of burned out on that. But then, you have to think, like, those are the kind of players that experience is for. So I think it's kind of a combination of, a lot of people have the perception that the game is dying for whatever reason, and so they just quit because they don't want to be around for that. But then also, I think people get frustrated and can't hack it, and it's absolutely true that there's not a lot to do if you're not interested in raiding and in seeing the same content over and over again in an effort to do better.
Yeah, especially with their cutting those the holiday content, which, in my opinion, was a bad idea. But I'm gonna have a stick with raiding right now. That's a whole other conversation going on with that.
Well, I think we will need to address that later on when we talk about what Wildstar can do, because I do know that there are some guildies who feel very strongly about the holiday content. So I'll give you a chance to talk about that later. Before I let you derail us. But I think if you haven't done so already, and I think we'll have to maybe put these links in the bottom of the video in the notes or something, there are 2 pretty strong personalities in Wildstar, Fever and Zyvac, who do have videos, and they discuss the raiding atmosphere and how they feel about raiding. And if you are a raider, I think it's a good watch and a good listen anyway. But if you wanted the perspective of two people who are in hardcore guilds who raid, many hours a week, it's a good thing to look at. If anything, it at least brings up some thoughts and maybe some discussion about how you as a player feel about raiding. There are some points in both of those videos that I absolutely agree with. I will say on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays when I'm done with raiding, I am exhausted. And I don't know if I've felt that exhausted in other games that I have raided in until this point. Maybe I'm a little bit older now and I just don't have it in me anymore, but I don't remember being as physically, emotionally, and mentally drained as I am when I'm done with raids 3 nights a week. And so I can sympathize with some of their comments about that. Something that's a little bit more challenging, at least for me personally, as someone who is a career healer, is that I think this is the first MMO anyway, that I've played where the healer can't fix fail. And I say that because every other game I've played up to this point, I probably could heal you through a mechanic that you shouldn't have been standing in, or I can battle res you back in. You may come back with a weakness, or you may come back with little to no life, but I can usually get you back up to full pretty quickly. This is the first game where those are not options, and so it does put a lot more responsibility on everybody to play perfectly, which we've already discussed. Is one of the things that makes raiding both exciting and frustrating.
Because you got to have 20 people knowing pretty much the mechanics and what's going on inside that raid at that one time. You got to trust that they're knowing what's going on.
Right. And this is the first game where I, as a healer, cannot fix when you mess up. Whereas every other game I've played, if you as a player messed up on something, I usually had a way to make it better. And I can't. Like, in this game, especially on certain bosses, if any of you who are watching or listening to this have been through the first floor of Genetic Archives, I can't fix when you mess up on those bosses. There's just no way. I can't heal to make platforms come back. So it's just the way that it is. And so I will
Platform drop.
Yeah. So I think that's good, but I do think that's also a challenge, because then if you don't have 19 other people that you can rely on, it can get challenging. Okay.
So what do you guys...
I don't know where we're going. Oh, if we're done talking about rating, otherwise there's one more point that I had.
I was going with the segue there.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting to me because, like, as I said before, this game is really hard, and unlike a lot of other games, there's not really a forum post you can read or like a piece of gear you can get that's going to make you better at avoiding the big red spot. Yeah. So, like, if there's something that you're having a hard time with, like, it's on you to figure it out 9 times out of 10. Like, people can give you advice, but if you just can't do it, like, you just can't do it. And I think that's part of the problem that people have with raiding, is that there are different, like, not only are there different levels of skill, obviously, that people find different things challenging, but people find different levels of challenge entertaining. And it's very easy to get frustrated if there's a mechanic that you can't do that's killing you over and over again, and then 19 other people are dying because you can't dodge, whatever mechanic. I can see how that gets people frustrated.
Don't let your head get too big. Just ask, and I'm pretty sure one of the other 19 people will know and try to help you and walk you through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, at least I think in our current rating group, I think just about all of us are willing to ask questions. When we were still growing our raid roster, and when we were still learning, I think some people had a hard time to admit that, they may not have known something, or they might have made a mistake that cost, a certain encounter. And that does take, like I said earlier, that does take a lot of personal responsibility to own up to that, because I think we also like to, always be at the top of the DPS meters. We always like to be, the ones that people say did an outstanding job, and so anything that could prevent those things from happening. I don't think players in general like to be wrong or make mistakes, and so, this is just one of those games where, because of your individual performance does affect other people now, it has taken some time for everyone to get used to the fact that you really have to own up and ask questions, because something that you don't know could lead to 20 more wipes.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but people know when it's you that messed up. It's not like, oh, we all died. It's like, oh, whatever, whoever dropped a bomb in the wrong place and we all died, we can find out. And, it's hard not to get frustrated kind of with that when you can see who's making a mistake and, like, personally blame them for your death.
Dejamal, I blame you for all of my deaths.
That's fair.
That's alright, you can blame me.
Dude, I'm melee. I can't kill anybody.
So you say.
I'm more likely to die than kill people.
But yeah, I don't know. I think we've pretty much, summed up everything there is about raiding. I do think it's very fun. I'm very excited to see what's gonna happen on the second and third floor genetic archives. I think there's a third floor.
Well, no, there's you kill
at least the third area.
Yeah, you kill the 3 on the second floor, and then you go down in like the basement to kill the final boss.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what else is coming in the genetic archives, because we've only really cleared the first 4 up to this point, but I've enjoyed it. It's been great, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we can always use more people. Just come, be a sub, and hey, sometimes we have like 5 or 6 people that can't make it, and we can always use somebody else to hop in and take their place.
Yeah, so shameless plug. If you are looking for a gaming community, we raid Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 8 p.m. to midnight.
Eastern time.
Yes, Eastern time. Thank you for that. You can visit alttabme.com to see what we're all about, and sign up for the forums, and then whisper any of us in-game, and we'll be happy to tell you more about it.
Yeah, or just join us in Mobile, come into chat, and just get to know some people before, if that's what you want to do, or just hop right on in.
So, are we done with raiding?
I think we just about covered what there is to cover.
I feel like we've.
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can go to the next part here and talk about what Carbine can do for us in the long run.
So yeah, I actually am very interested in this, and our outline is kind of split up funny, but I think there are some things that Carbine is doing well, which I think we should thank them for. But then I think there are some things that we could probably ask for as well. So let's start with what they're doing well.
Well, the one, my thing is, I think the difficulty alone is reason enough to stay. Like, I want to beat stuff, and since there's stuff that nobody in the world has beat, like, I think that the people that they wanted to get with that, they've got. And, you always see posts on the forums about how, there's nothing to do at 50, and it's always followed by this person who says, I don't want to do dungeons or raid or, mess around with housing or character customization or do dailies or do adventures. Like, there are a lot of levels of content. Mm-hmm. And, I'll admit that I'm a little tired of doing the same 4 dungeons. I think they could probably have started getting those out faster than they are. But
why don't you do some adventures?
Because they're boring. Like, the adventures are definitely the kind of thing that you can outgrow. Like, once you're at a certain level gear-wise, like, they're just not fun anymore. Because, it's like doing dailies. You're never going to lose. There's no real danger. But, if, like, that's...
a tank, there would be real danger in adventure.
Yeah. We could do 5 DPS adventures. Let's try it.
That would be fun.
But yeah, I mean, if you're not raiding, like, you're not going to get to that level of gear where it's not like it's too easy to do adventures for them to be fun. So there are levels that people just kind of ignore because they don't want to raid.
I will throw the alternative argument there, and I will say that, at least in my opinion, everything that you do, whether it's dungeons, dailies, crafting, or whatever it is that you work on, a lot of it is geared to lead up to raiding. And so I think when we talk about some of the things that Carbine can do for other people, you know, I think that if I wasn't someone who was interested in raiding, I don't know if I'd still be around. Just because I think, you know, everything that I do in the game is specifically for getting ready to be a raider. You know, like you said, the dungeons are great, but there's only 4 of them. And so for someone who's a more casual player, just to throw the argument out there, are they okay with Baldo? Maybe I'll turn it over to Baldo now. But would they be okay with just running 4 dungeons over and over?
I think they could do a little work on that because, yeah, like you said, it's like typically like everything's getting you set up for raiding, and there's like a little content here and there for the casual guys. I don't want to use that word, but I mean that's what I am. I'm not raiding, so.
I don't think casual has to have a bad connotation to it. I just think that this game, in its current state, doesn't have a lot for a casual player because, I mean, aside from adventures and some crafting and some housing, it's all raiding.
Well, yeah. and part of the problem is they point you right at it. Like, when you get to 50, the primary story NPC, like, calls you and says, you know, this is your next quest, and it's get raid attuned, and like that's what everything is kind of funneled toward. So they kind of like there are people who don't want to raid who are still, you know, we're trying to get through the attunement process. Especially there are levels of like rewards for dungeons, so you can get a bronze medal just by completing the dungeon and like doing all the stuff, and then there's like a timer for if you get a silver medal, and then there are some additional challenges that are often ridiculous for gold. And for a long time, I really like
that, the way they staggered that.
Yeah, it's cool, but for a long time, like dungeons, you had to get a silver medal on all 4 dungeons to get raid attuned. And like it's hard. It's a good barometer of if you're going to be able to survive raid fights, like you have to be able to do these things. But people who got to 50 and just started getting attuned because the game told them to, like who couldn't do that, were getting really frustrated, smashing their head into the same 30-minute instance for, you know, months on end. So they finally backed off on that, and I think it was a good move. Maybe not for the raiding community, but definitely for the game as a whole to keep those people interested.
I agree. I thoroughly enjoyed the silver screening part of
It was my favorite part of the game.
I learned a lot about my character and how to play the game from, you know, having to master those dungeons and getting a silver on them, because some of them were actually quite difficult. But I agree with you. I think they did the right thing for the community and the game as a whole by lessening the requirements on that. That just puts more responsibility on guilds to make sure that when they bring someone in, you know, they are a good judge of whether or not they think this person has the skill necessary to execute on the mechanics that they need to execute.
Yeah, and I mean, I know people started, you have to prove you have the achievement for silvers, even though you can get a tune without silvers, or like you have to do a run with the guild, and they have to see, you know, that you're capable of doing what you need to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yep.
I mean, it like in the long run, it probably got people raid attuned who aren't prepared to raid, but if it kept those people playing the game, like, absolutely worth it.
Yeah, so Base Point, what do we want them to do with that? With the dungeons, adventures? Want them to add more dungeons, adventures, or do we want them to spice it up?
I think adding more is always a good option, because I like seeing new content and doing it. So,
I think they should start adding. I do think that they have to be very careful because, you know, the last few drops that they have had have come, I think, with a lot of flaws and bugs. And so I do think that the next couple of drops are going to be very important for them and for, their retention of certain types of players in the community. Aside from giving us new content, I think they need to give us a reason to do some of that content. Before I came to Wildstar, I came from Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, and that game gave you a dungeon daily with rewards, and so even when you were a max level character, having a dungeon daily did two things. It gave you a reason to run the dungeons, even though you were a dungeon character, because it gave you an incentive to do it. But it also kept it so that higher level players would be able to play with some of the lower level players because of the way that they scaled, depending on which type of dungeon you queued up for. And so I do think that there could be opportunity for the community here to help each other out. Because in its current state, there's no reason for max-level characters to do anything with low-level characters. So it is a very solitary leveling experience, which also doesn't give you any incentive to do dungeons while you're leveling because it's not efficient either. So I think aside from giving us new content, they probably could also give us a reason to do the content.
Yeah, well, I mean, and even just to log in, period, for a lot of people, log in for raid day and nothing else. Because unless you're like when you're starting to ruin your gear, there's a lot of money intensive. Like you need to make a lot of money to get materials and everything. But other than that, there's not a lot that's going to force you to log in every day unless you want to. Right. So they need to put something in beyond. You can make money if you want to, but like the last probably month, the only thing I spent significant money on is costumes because I keep getting cool claws.
Man,
so like daily dungeon, daily adventures, like a daily quest. I mean, even something to like randomize it.
Yeah,
would be great.
I don't care what, but I feel like if they gave us a reason to do some of the old content again, even those blasted adventures that Dejamal hates, at least give us a reason.
I would do them if there's a reason. I mean, I'll still do them for people's attunement or whatever, but just sitting down, I'm not like, what? I feel like doing an adventure today.
No more Watwa runs?
No. That one I don't ever want to do again. Just because I've done it so many times.
I ran that enough for other people, but, so, okay. So I kind of want to bring up something that is really maybe stinky, but PvP.
Mm.
And I bring it up because I actually came to Wildstar with the intention of PvP. When I saw all of the promos for War Plots, that got me really excited for Wildstar because I remember I was thinking in my mind this was like the closest thing to Vanilla and Burning Crusade WoW, Alterac Valley. Like I was all about that map back in the day. And so when I saw the war plots and I saw, all of the marketing around that, I got really excited for it. And now I don't even touch PvP anymore. So let's talk about that.
Well, I think
I'm gonna jump in.
Well, do you want to jump in? Have you
no,
PvP'd at all?
I didn't jump in the war plots.
I don't want to go first.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I think
terrible experience for me.
Yeah. What the first problem they have with it is I've always hated the idea of PvP gear, but in this game especially, like the PvP gear is beyond broken. Like if you're not in PvP gear and someone is, you can't hurt or kill them. It's to the point where there's no reason you would want to get into it because you'll join a battleground. And everyone there is in, top-rated gear, and you might as well just be throwing little rocks at them, and then whenever they look your way, you die.
So there's no adjustment towards, like, okay, here's a bunch of people who don't have gear, and then here's people with gear, and it's just, like, mix and match?
Well, it's based on...
They tried to do some of that a little bit, but I don't think it worked very well.
Well, what they tried to do is there's a rating system, so you can queue for, rated battlegrounds, and if you're rated at 1200, you're not going to get people who are rated at 1800, which is where you get, like, the top-tier PvP gear. But then they ran into the problem of people would get to 1800, get all their gear, and then tank their rating. so that they could just eat people who were less geared than them, and then people started selling, like, you know, a group of 9 guys would get to 1800, and then they would charge you, and they would all tank their ratings back down to yours, and you would just join them, and they would carry you to 1800. So the landscape just got, it's all kinds of messed up. There's no guarantee that you're not just going to get steamrolled and have no recourse at all in any given fight.
And I actually don't want to get into the win trading and tank rating thing with this, because I think that's a whole other can of worms I don't know if we want to get into right now. I will say that I think itemization in general, both on the PvE side and the PvP side, I thought about it for PvP, but it also applies to PvE. I think there could be some opportunity to improve on that. I think on the PvP side, they have made some efforts to do that. They're trying to close the gap between, you know, what 1500 gear looks like compared to 1800 gear, and so I know that they're making efforts on that. I think there is opportunity on both ends, though. You know, especially in raiding, it's strange sometimes when the raid items drop and it's a marginal increase to what you're wearing. That kind of worries me a little bit. I've actually passed on items that, you know, someone who had an off-spec healer could probably get a lot of use out of it because it didn't do much for me, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, well, and part of it is, like, everything that I've got from raids is a big upgrade for me, but the way that the rune system works is that it's heavily RNG dependent. Every item can have a certain, like, number of runes, but it's, you know, this pieces from raids can have 2 to 5. And so I have pieces that are massive upgrades stat-wise that I can't use because the rune set bonuses I have are going to get killed if I put on these great pants that have horrible slots. So yeah, I have 4 items sitting in my bank right now that will be an increase of like 100 assault power for me when I finally put them on, that I can't wear because I can't do anything with water slots.
Which they are going to address, though.
Yeah, the next drop, they're going to do, you can add rune slots, you can change rune slots elements, and they're adding a whole bunch more runes to make, like, basically every class and spec has dead rune slots that can't really do anything, and they're trying really hard to remove that to where even if it's not ideal, you can get something out of that rune slot instead of, I mean, like, I have ones I can't even put on because I'm going to lose set bonuses.
This is just speculation for me, but I'm curious to see how the market will play a factor in that.
That's why I stopped spending money. I'm just going to be rich beyond belief when that drop hits, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, because I worry that it's going to cost a lot of money to fix some of my armor right now. And so I'm very curious to see how that plays out when it eventually launches.
I think there are some flat changes they could make, and I don't know if they will, but I think things that would be tremendous would be if you have a piece of raid gear with 2 slots, they should bump it up to 3 or 4, because I'm going to have to spend my first, like, 15 additional rune slot items, whatever shape those take, just making gear I already have up to the spec. It's going to be guaranteed now. Like, if they drop that tomorrow and I got the same pants I got to, you know, that have 2 slots, if I got those tomorrow, they're guaranteed to have 4. So I would be really mad if I have to spend a significant amount of money getting gear I already had to the level that all gear is at now.
Yep. So Carbine, you hear our words and fix them.
Please.
Please, yes.
I've been told that the devs are listening.
I have heard that as well.
I've heard that a lot of times. It has not borne out in game all the time.
I do believe. And I, you know, we joke, but I have no perspective, and I have no idea of what it's like to work for a gaming company or, you know, be a developer, and so I completely, you know, I'm ignorant about all that, and so really all I'm saying is from the perspective of a player and an end user, you know, here are the things that, you know, we are constructively trying to provide feedback for. So hopefully can keep the game around for a long time.
Stuff we don't like, stuff we want, stuff we want fixed.
And I think people do forget, like, we're spoiled now because we've had World of Warcraft, but, like, people don't remember that game was just a mess for, like, the first year it was out. The PvP system was one of the stupidest things I've ever experienced in my life.
Right. And like, there's a lot of, articles and, stuff out there about how the timing of Warcraft was just right. And so, we don't need to get into that here, but we are spoiled because now people think of it in its glory days when they compare it to everything else. And so,
well, not only that, but there are options. Like, you can go play WoW again, or you can go play Guild Wars, or I don't know if people still play Terra or Star Wars, or...
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. So I'm pretty sure we have a few threads about that on our website at alttabme.com. Shameless throw in for a link there.
Nicely done.
That's very good. I enjoy that. We'll have to put the link for alttabme.com at the bottom somewhere.
Probably will. We'll have it down there.
I'm down here. This is me right here. We'll have to go below
I'm passing
me.
it down to you, and you can pass it down.
I'll put it over there, and then
on there.
There we go.
All right. So you're still enjoying Wildstar, so we're hoping it's going to be in here for the long run. I'm pretty sure most of us are still going to be here 6 months down the road, a year down the road, still playing it, still raiding. Going to be on that end boss soon, right? End floor.
Maybe in GA, yeah. They are actually. They're releasing a new 20-man. I think with Drop 4, that's actually going to be easier than the one that exists, which I think is a good move because GA is actually super hard. Like, I have never experienced a raid this challenging, just in terms of progression and being able to do the fights. So I think one that's a little easier would go a long way toward giving people who don't want to meet that level of challenge, like, it's about escalation. The first trash pull of Genetic Archives is harder than most everything but the bosses of everything you've seen before. Like, it's a whole new level that there's not a lot of gearing up for. You just kind of, it's very much a trial by fire situation. So a smaller fire would hurt a lot less, I think.
Very humbling to wipe on trash. Very humbling.
Although I think we're going to bring this to a close here. I think we've been on for a good long while. Yeah. So
we're at 49 minutes counting the bloopers.
Yep. And so we're going to talk about what's going to come in next podcast, which we're going to have a few more special guests, have some returning guys, maybe something along the lines of Smite or some of the other games that we're playing. But we're also going to bring back Wildstar because this is a game that we love and want to continue playing and support and get the word out there because the word is the bird. We're going to bring it on.
And we are a multi-platform, multi-gaming community, and so I'm not very good at multitasking my games, but I know that there are lots of people out there who are playing Destiny, Smite. What else are you guys playing?
Smite. There's a few League characters that play in. I know Danger played it for a while, but I guess he's in Wildstar for a while.
Some World of Warcraft people as well.
We got some Drive Club when they fixed the updates on that online. Yeah. Got a lot of games playing right now, but Wildstar is like our main page, what we want to do right now with the guild.
Yep, but there's lots of other games, so definitely check us out. And if there's something that you want to play with us, by all means, come join us.
Yep, and theme song. Ta-da!